Today's message, I was going to do a two-part series this week and next week, but it still will be a two-part series, but not next week, because next week is the 10th year celebration of Citipointe West, and which is 10 years over there. That campus is what it does. There's nothing like it in the western suburb, like in Inala and all that area. There is nothing like Citipointe West out there. It has a huge marketplace. It feeds so many people. The church is booming, and next week is their 10th year celebration. So Lee and I are going to be out there that weekend. But we will be, I will finish the message in a couple of weeks' time. It's a really important message. I've called it the God of the Bible. The God of the Bible. And why I think it's important is because I'm afraid that people have a God of their own imagination. A God of opinions of others, God of cliches that they've heard growing up. But if you want a great strength or a great relationship with God, you've got to know who God really is. And what we've got to know is not the God of our opinion, but the God of the Bible. Because he's the God that does and knows everything. So over this message and the following one, we're going to look at the different aspects of God, of who he is. Because I want to tell you this, the more you know about God, the more you see God, the more you can have of God. The more you can see of God, the more you can have. And it starts with like a revelation. Let's read Ephesians chapter 1, verse 18 and 19. The eyes of your understanding be enlightened. If anything I could pray for today is that verse right there. That the eyes of your understanding be enlightened. That you may know what is the hope of his calling. What are the riches of the glory of his inheritance in the saints. And what is the exceeding greatness of his power toward us who believe, according to the working of his mighty power. You know, I look back at my life as a believer when I became a Christian, and I want to tell you, the moments that changed my destiny is when my eyes became enlightened. And the times I saw something I've never seen before. When I've read the Bible and it's jumped out of the pages and grabbed me by the throat and took my attention. It's like when God reveals something, it's a revelation. You know, those moments when God opens up the top of your head, drops in a live grenade, closes it, counts, and something goes off in your head and you're no longer the same. It's a revelation. See, it's not just thinking that changes us, it's a revelation, a revealing. And I pray today that your eyes, your understanding will be enlightened to the bigness of who God is. And the more you can see of God, the more you can have of God. How do you see God? I mean, how do you see God right now? Who is God to you? No, not the person. No, who is God to you? What thoughts come to mind when I say God or Jesus? What are the feelings you get from that name? What do you start to see or feel? When you talk about God or Jesus, do you see him as loving, present, or is he a bit more absent and even harsh? Is he judgmental to you? Do you feel like he lets you down? Do you feel he's absent? Is he the God of your everyday? Or is he the God of certain times? You know, church, well, God. Yeah, I can sense God, I think God at church, but really the rest of the week he seems to be not there. Or do you put him away and pull him out when you need a miracle, like a genie? Just bring him out. Rub the Bible, abracadabra. Oh, Holy Spirit, group hug. Now, how do you see God? Is he the captain of your life leading you that way? Or is he the cabin boy that you call up when you need something? Wow. See, how you see God is how you will treat God. And how you see or how you know God will determine the strength of your relationship with him. The Israelites, thousands of years ago, tried to keep God contained in a box. They called it the Ark of the Covenant. They would take it around. They were scared that if they let him out, he'd disappear. But that wasn't the place God ever wanted to be. As a matter of fact, India Jones trying to let him out. It was not that God didn't want to be with them. It's that how you see God is how you treat God. Then Solomon built a temple. And he put a huge curtain at the back where the holiest of holies was, and only certain people could go there. They'd kept, or God was unable to be seen or reached out to by ordinary people. How you see God is how you treat God. But the truth is, the only place big enough to house the presence of God is not a box or a temple, it's the heart of a human soul. The only place big enough to house the presence of God was never to do with construction or material, but made of flesh and of human beings. And it was 2,000 years ago that God decided enough is enough. He sent his son Jesus to die on a cross. And in that moment, the temple curtain was shredded. And he was said, now I'm out. I'm going to live where I've always meant to live, in the hearts of my creation. He says, I will be their God and they will be my people. Who is God to you? How do you see him? How much of him do you see? What's your relationship look like and feel like? Is it rigid, religious, distant, awkward? Or is it close, comfortable? You know, I think we can over-exaggerate our relationship with God to the wrong place. You know, sometimes I've got to get up to pray in the morning and say, God, you've got to start without me. I'm still tired. I'm close enough to know he knows who I am and what I'm really thinking. You know, like, God, sometimes I'm just made of the dust of the earth. Give me a break. God, sometimes you're so fast I can't keep up with you. Sometimes you're so slow it's no wonder you get anything done. I'm comfortable with my relationship with God because I don't see him through one lens. I see him through the bigness of who he is, the God of the Bible. Who do you see God is? The truth is that your relationship with God will be dependent on how you see God and how much you see of God. How you see God and how much you see of God. Like, my relationship with Reuben down here, Pastor Reuben with the blonde hair. My relationship with him is dependent on how I see him. Can I trust that man? Would I give him my credit card and PIN number? Can I trust him with that? As a matter of fact, Lee's credit card got stolen recently, and somebody said to me, did you report it to the police? And I said, no, I'm going to let the thief keep it. He spends less each month. Would I buy a used car of a man with a face like that? You see, my relationship is dependent on how I see him. And how I see him is dependent on how much I see of him. And it's the same with our relationship with God. How my relationship here works with him is how I see him. And the truth is, how I see him is dependent on how much I see of him. Is Reuben trustworthy, or is he full of shiftiness? See, that determines. And I think we get stuck with a lens to God that might hinder our relationship without it meaning to. Because we're only seeing this much of who he is. So it's very important about how we see. It's the same with God. How we perceive him is determined by how much I know about him. And I'm praying over these next couple of times that I get to preach this message, you're going to see God not through just that lens, but the bigness of who he is. If you want a great relationship with God, you have got to see him for who he really is. Not the God of your imagination, not the God of you hoped he would be, not the God of somebody else's opinion, but the God of the Bible. God is much bigger than you think. He's much bigger than you think. And the more you see, the more you can have. You know, I think of myself, most people in this room see me as the pastor. That's Mark, he's the pastor. But I am much more than a pastor. I'm a husband, a father, I'm a grandfather called Jeepar. I'm a friend, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a neighbor, I'm a surfer, and I'm a male fashion model. that not many people know about. But I'm much more than what you see. So if your lens is only viewed that way, this is all you see. And it's the same with God. If you only see through one particular lens, you'll only see God in that particular view. The more you can see of God, the more you can have. And the stronger your relationship will be. So this next couple of times, I want us to show you the God of the Bible and how we are to perceive him in his fullness. And as humans, how we're to relate to him in these special relationships he's designed for us. What you see of God is what you have. So let's start looking. So the first thing I want us to see God as, and obviously this is quite, simple, God. I want us, the God aspect of God. So there are many aspects to God. There's King, there's Savior, there's Father, there's Friend, and we'll get to all of those. But the first aspect of God we need to get clear in our head is that he is God. All right? He is God. In other words, the relationship now is he is the creator, we are the created. You've got no idea how many people have got that mixed up. That they think they're the creator and he's the created. And they live life accordingly, and unfortunately the world's in a terrible mess because they think they can do life without the creator, and it doesn't work. We must understand that he is the creator and we are the created. Let's start. Genesis 1. God makes this clear right from the start. Genesis 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God. You notice it wasn't man, it was God. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. What was before the beginning? Nothing. God created the heavens and the earth. He designed time itself. He stood outside of time and made it come to be. He is God. He is the creator of all things. There was nothing until he said, let it be. I know the Beatles made that song famous, but God started it. Let it be were the words of God. And as he spoke, it existed. God spoke and the planets came into existence. From out of nothing, he produced something. Psalm 33, verses 6 through 9. By the word of the Lord, the heavens were made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. He gathers the waters of the sea together as a heap. He lays up the deep in storehouses. Let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. For he spoke and it was done. He commanded and it stood fast. God spoke. The world was created. If there was a big bang, it's because God said, let's have a big bang. The big bang just did not happen. God spoke and that would create a big bang. So understand, God created all things. They didn't just happen from nothingness into something. They came from faith out of our God, that's the creator of all things, and spoke everything into existence. You know, they keep making bigger telescopes. Then they look for the far reaches of the universe, not to try and find more stars, but to find the end. The sad news is they're never going to find the end until God shuts up. And as long as God keeps speaking, the universe will unfold. He is the creator. He is infinite in his concepts. And even if you think about that just going on forever, then if you come back to the very smallest of things, and then you get an atom or a molecule, and you split an atom and split a molecule, there's always something there to split. It never gets to nothing. It just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So God has designed infinity that way, and he's designed infinity this way. He is the creator of all things. He is much bigger than you think. He spoke and the world came into existence. I love the conversation God has with Job as Job's trying to wrestle with this concept of God. And I think it's a good one for us to look at, this conversation. And it's God saying, well, Job, do you really think you have got the best ideas? Do you really think you're as smart as you think? Do you think your ways are higher than my ways? And I love the way that God tells Job what's going on. So let's have a look. Job chapter 38, verses 4 through 12. Where were you, Job, when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined the measurements? Surely you know. Oh, you stretched the line upon it to where where its foundations fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut the sea with doors and when it burst forth and issued from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment, the thick darkness a swaddling band. When I fixed my limit for it and set bars and doors. When I said, this far you may come, but no farther, and here your proud waves must stop. Have you commanded the morning since your days begun? Caused the dawn to know its place? I find it a great conversation to get us in perspective of who we are in this relationship. He is the creator. We are the created. It goes on. Let's read a little bit more about Job's conversation with God. Have you entered the springs of the sea? Have you walked in search of the depths? Have the gates of death been revealed to you? Or have you seen the doors of the shadow of death? Have you comprehended the breadth of the earth? The breadth of the earth. Tell me if you know all this, Job. And I want to tell you today, the reason the earth is in a mess is because humanity think they are the creator and he is the created. To get our relationship right with God, it must start where we understand as we look into the night sky and see the heavens and the earth that we are created, and we must then bow our knee to the wonder of a creator. Without that, you can't have a relationship with God through Jesus Christ. It must become obvious that there is somebody's ways higher than our ways. His understanding more, his wisdom way beyond who we are. His imagination is endless. And one of the greatest things about life is waking up and finding out something you never knew. And I find this continually, that I've been on this earth quite a number of years, and now that every day I find something out that I never knew. God's ways are endless. His infinity. Do you know the black widow spider? Do you know why they call her a widow? Because she eats her husband after sex to feed the kids. I'm so glad I'm not a black widow spider. No sex. I find it fascinating that the trillions of snowflakes that fall to the ground every year, not two of them have ever been made the same. I find it incredible that in the eons of time, there'll never be anybody designed just like you, even though we're all made in the image of God. I find it just significantly mind-blowing to see that in the middle of this universe, somehow he knows who I am. And he knows who you are. Somehow that out of the dust of the earth, that he created a vessel with the ability to hold the presence of God within it, where no temple or box was ever made big enough. Revelation chapter 4, verse 11. You are worthy, O Lord, to receive glory, honor, and power. For you created all things, and by your will they exist and were created. I want you to see that. You are worthy, O Lord, to receive glory, honor, and power. The whole thing about honor, see, God doesn't demand we worship him. It should be the intent of our heart to worship him. God doesn't need us to worship him. He does not have an issue with his self-esteem. He doesn't, gosh, if they don't worship him, I feel like nothing. No. The reason we're to bring glory and honor and worship to him, the creator, is because that positions us to receive from the one that made all things. If you can't worship and honor and bring glory to the one above you, you can never receive. You can't receive from somebody on the platform unless you honor them. They can talk to you, but you can't receive it. Honor is about position. Why we ask people to stand up and honor the Word of God on a Sunday morning and welcome to the platform whoever's speaking is not that it's good for my, oh, thank goodness they still love me. No, we don't do it from the speaker. We do it that in our hearts we decide, you know what? I'm going to receive something today. I'm going to position my heart to receive from whoever's speaking. It's not about God wanting us to honor. He's just saying, if you want to receive all that I have for you and I've created everything, then bring glory and honor unto me. Bow the heart of your knee, the knee of your heart. Sounds better? Because knees don't have a heart. Do they? Maybe I'll find that out tomorrow. He is the creator. We are the created. Amazing how many people get this messed up. It was his breath that flicked the switch on a bunch of chemicals and created life. God invented science. God is not anti-physics. God designed all science. God is a God of systems. He invented the solar system, the blood system, the nervous system. Science is not outside the realm of God or anti-God. He created science. He created medicine. He created the things that we're a part of. He is not the copier. He is the creator. And for everything else to fall into place, we must come to see him first as the creator and us as the created. There must be a willingness to bow the knee of our heart to bring honor, majesty, glory, and power, that he alone is God. Psalm 111, verse 10 says this: Fear the Lord, for the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all those things who do his commandments. His praises endure forever. The fear of the Lord is the beginning. You will notice here it says that fear of the Lord is not the end of wisdom, it's the beginning of wisdom. And for us to even be wise, to have a sense of wisdom, we must first fear God. Now he's not talking about being afraid of God. He's talking about a reverential awe of God. Those that have a reverential awe of God, his bigness, who he is, what he's done, what he can do, those people are now starting to see wisdom for the very first time. I'm not afraid of God, but I understand that my eternity and life are in his hands. I understand all that is if God withdrew his generosity, the Bible says the world would cease to exist. He says that he upholds us by his generosity. You see, God is the creator of all things. You see, I've been surfing most of my life now, and I'm not afraid of the ocean, but I have a reverential awe of the ocean because I know its power. I know what it can do to you if you're not careful. Just over the weekend, we've seen 3 people drown on the Gold Coast. Why? No reverential awe of the ocean. I've been around long enough to know that thing can suck you up and spit you out anytime it wants. If you're in the water, never turn your back on the ocean. If you're near the water, never turn your back. Because as soon as you turn your back, that wave that hasn't come through is about to get you. So I have this great relationship with the ocean. I'm not afraid of it, but I have reverential awe of its power and its might. I'm not afraid of God, but I understand I have a reverential awe of who he is as a creator. A reverential awe of his majesty, his power. That my life, my eternity lays within his hands. And I find that pretty exciting because the next part of that is that if he's so mighty and so big and he's for me, then who can be against me? Greater is he that's in me than he, the deceiver that's in the world bringing lies and destruction. Greater is he that's in me. He's the creator of all things. He's not the copier. He's not the deceiver. He's the creator. Today, if you can bow the knee of your heart and honestly just worship him for who he is, you've just started on the greatest relationship of all times. He doesn't demand it. He says, will you come? Will you come?